everybody. I'm Elissa Hozore, and I work at Code in the Schools, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. And as you heard yesterday, Maryland was one of actually the impetuses for this whole broccoli project. So go Maryland. And I actually panicked because before this job, I was this is CS specialist at the Maryland State Department of Education. And when I learned about this law and what was going on, I was like, okay, no CS education in Maryland anymore. So it became very important that we created accessible materials. And there was really not a lot going on, but my involvement with this has really been mostly through a group called CS Access. And if you're not familiar with it, it is an incredible community of very committed people who believe in sharing and collaborating. So really the idea behind CS Access is this work is hard. It's complicated, it's time consuming and really expensive. And we should not have to do it alone, because you can have a variety of platforms, but really each platform needs to be accessible so any student can access, and all students can access all platforms. And therefore, we should collaborate on the hard problems of making it accessible, and then everybody can go and do their own cool individual creative thing. And so that's really how I have been involved in this project and in the greater accessibility community. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start with a little bit of an anecdote that might not seem relevant. But when my daughter was in about third grade, they built a brand new elementary school. And after they moved into this brand new building, I saw the woman who had been her kindergarten teacher, who was still teaching kindergarten. And I said, how's the new building? Is it great? And she looked at me and she said, they didn't listen to us. The bathrooms are down the hall. And I don't know how familiar you are with kindergarteners, but down the hall is a opportunity for many experiences and distractions, not to mention accidents. So, but I'm going to concentrate on what she said first, which is they didn't listen to us. And really, for a teacher to be able to use a product in their classroom with 25 kids, or sometimes 60 kids, and kids with different abilities, disabilities, all kinds of things, we need to make those products accessible to the teachers. And that way they can make products accessible to all students. And if we really believe in all students, then we really have to make them accessible to teachers. Kids will go to summer camp, kids will get exposed in their houses, but until they are appealing, accessible, and usable by the teachers, we're not getting everything to every kid. And so what I'm going to do today is ask you to think about listening to the teachers' voices. And I'm going to just kind of tell you about 3 different educators and what might happen in their classroom. So the first educator is Jolene. She's a 4th grade teacher from far Western Maryland in Appalachia. And she does a variety of CS robotics in her classroom as much as she can. She teaches her kids every different topic and can try to integrate as much as she can. But she's also lucky because in Garrett County, Maryland, they have an incredible robotics program. And some of the high school robotics kids come into elementary school classrooms and do STEM lessons. And in Jolene's classroom, a lot of times those STEM lessons take the form of Scratch. And Jolene, let's imagine Jolene is watching a student in her classroom really struggle with the drag and drop. And then she thinks, wow, that kid really has bad handwriting and really seems to struggle with other fine motor tasks. Maybe keyboard navigation is the answer for that student. So let's imagine that Scratch is keyboard navigable. And not only that, but Jolene knows that it's keyboard navigable and knows how to access the resources that help her implement keyboard navigation for that student. Jolene can be a gateway for this student. And not only that, but if the student is successful, maybe he decides, I want to be in that Lego robotics team that this high school kid coaches after school. So imagine that the platform, the navigation conventions of keyboard navigation in Scratch are the same as they are in the Lego platform, or similar enough so the student doesn't have to learn a whole new protocol again. Gateway, not roadblock. Now I'm going to take you to a very different part of Maryland, which is Montgomery County, which is suburban Washington, D.C. And this is Kim. She's an incredible superstar. And if you're interested in CS and library media lessons that are aligned, she designed a website with a few colleagues. It's incredible. But she uses a ton of robotics, technology, everything in her classroom. So let's say, imagine again that they're doing a big Sprite lab. And Kim sees every kid in the school, actually. So she sees them once a week. So let's say they're doing a big Sprite Lab project. The kids are really excited about it. A kid walks in, she's broken her dominant hand, can't, and is having a terrible time navigating. I don't know if you've ever tried, but I cannot navigate a mouse or a trackpad with my left hand. So what does Kim do? Well, imagine that she knows that code.org is keyboard navigable, that she knows how to access that material. Now, this kid has written pretty sophisticated code, so she knows not only where that getting started is with keyboard navigation, but she knows how to find resources to help the student do nested loops and parameters and whatever else the student wants to do. And again, in Montgomery County, they actually use Finch robots in science class. So imagine that Kim can help the teacher help the student navigate those Finch robots in the science class. And again, the platforms are parallel enough that the student doesn't have to learn all over again. And last but not least, we're going to fly halfway across the country to see Jennifer, who happens to be seated in this room. And Jennifer is an itinerant teacher of the visually impaired, which means she goes from classroom to classroom, school to school, supporting teachers and students all over the state of Iowa. And for Jennifer, and if you've talked to her, you'll know that a passion is really to make sure these students don't sit in the corner and do something different, that they can be in the classroom with everybody else. However, for Jennifer to go from platform to platform and think about, oh, on this platform you do this, on this platform you do this, and the learning resources, this one looks like this, and this one's here, and this one's there. It's just a big cognitive load, not only for Jennifer, but for the teachers who might use different platforms, for students who go from grade to grade or even class to class and use different platforms. So in order to allow these three teachers and many others like them to really open the doors to this technology, I need to ask for three things: consistent features. And I think Rachel and Lucy both talked about this yesterday. If the conventions can be consistent from platform to platform, please do that, because that will be so much easier and will allow the kids to get up to speed faster. And don't think, oh, I want them only to use my platform, because they won't. Believe me, they jump platform to platform, and it makes them more excited about every platform. User-friendly guidance, and this is where Code in the Schools and the Blockley grant comes in. Our grant is to create kind of a foundational professional development guidance, really, and we've decided that actually like webinars might not be the best way, but we're working with Microbit, with code.org, and happy to work with anybody else to have teachers look at the professional development, the guides, the slide decks, the videos, whatever you have to provide. And I have some incredible teachers who are looking at them and saying, this is helpful, this is not helpful. I understood this, I didn't understand this. We need this guidance first, and then we can go to this guidance. And what we want to do is kind of in the CS Access model is kind of provide, this is what you need to give your teachers, and then you can put your own stamps on it. You can do it however you want, but this is the the kind of way we need to organize it. The other thing I want to bring up is that most of these teachers, and I know the three I talked about, have no computer science background. They're all incredible. They've all learned a lot, but the jargon, and they've all done a lot of it. For a teacher who has a kid walk into their classroom with a broken hand and on the fly has to be able to implement this, they don't know what a workspace is. They don't even know what a toolbox is. They don't know what a lot of these terms are. So if you really define the terms and make sure they're as jargon free as possible, that would be the best way to really make them gateways and not roadblocks. So then just take a minute, turn to the people at your table, and see if you have any other suggestions about how we can best support teachers. I would love to hear them. If you want to just shout out now, I think we have 3 minutes left or something. So if you want to take a minute and talk to your neighbor or just say it out loud, I'd love to hear any questions, comments, or suggestions.
Smaller pieces of PD.
Smaller pieces of PD, like you mean like
self-paced,
so would it be topic by topic?
No.
I like it.
Which they won't remember when that kid walks into their room. That's why, yeah. So I like that, like that little, and one of our teachers has said, video, we need video. Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop you all now because I think there's a lot of talking here and I want to hear the ideas. So I'm going to start with Brian first and then get ready because if you don't have time, I'm going to come around and ask you later.
So the thing we were talking about was having like kind of smaller pieces of PD, professional development. It's like little videos that you could have. So if a teacher is like preparing for a class, they can have like a quick little reminder about something that they would need for like a student in that upcoming class. Yeah.
You guys, any good ideas back there? You can say no. We can tell you.
Obviously, first was the professional development and the listening to teachers, which you kind of already covered. But then the other piece was maybe the ability to be able to have a classroom interface where you can turn features on or off so that teachers have access and students have access to the things they need, but the other things aren't there to distract them. And that way you could put stuff more front and center because you don't have to worry about other kids who don't need that getting distracted by it.
So a very interesting discussion that we've had is like widening the lens of who actually needs what and giving choice to kids, because I think we were talking last night about how sometimes keyboard navigation works better for those of us who don't even actually need it. So sorry, I'm sticking them.
You sure are very insistent that I say something. Well, I liked what you said here. I want you to share.
Oh, yeah. I was mentioning, as you know, big undertaking we've done last year is descriptive audio for a lot of the curricular content, and actually learning about how, as a curriculum developer and a tool provider, how we can actually make better content because all learners can benefit from more descriptive, clear communication, and not having it be a separate track that then it feels like, oh, I'm an exception. I have to listen to the different track. But now if we can build it in and simplify, make smaller units of content, it's really, you know, taking an accessibility focus, and we've worked a lot with Dr. Maya as well. Just really learning, and it's awareness at this point that a lot of people are not even aware of these types of challenges until they start looking at it. And
We talked about the importance of everybody in the classroom being able to do the same thing, so you're not having a separate but equal tool. And we talked a little bit about audio description of videos, so that maybe the teacher can see how the keyboard navigation works, even if the blind student isn't going to be able to watch the video. You could audio describe it so they understood what was going on.
Yeah, this is a kind of a quick one, but in my experience with, and this is mostly high school, it's really important to have role models, that people who are out there who have the same disability or similar disability, who are successful, talk about their lives and their struggles and how they got to where they are. And I think, that's kind of a motivator. It's not this technical stuff that we've all been talking about. So and if you don't have the motivation to learn, you're not going to learn. So that's important.
We spoke a lot of what folks have already talked about too. So, but the biggest thing that maybe is different that was sort of mentioned is co-design, like specifically, is an important strategy. And the other is that there are a lot of misconceptions about which accommodations are good for which students. And so even if the accommodations are there, and you all talked about it too, but it's not only about the functional needs of the kids, but it's also dispelling the myths about who can benefit from which tools. And so
That's actually a teacher said, I would love the tutorials to have keyboard navigation in it. And I said, a separate one or the general one? And she said, oh, the general one. It was like no question, for all kids that would be helpful. So anyway, I'm sorry, Brianna. And I just want to really thank the whole community, because it's been very inspirational, and I feel really intimidated that I was between